Well, with a major death at stake, we are given a much deeper look at the secondary characters and their point of view of Norman as a whole. Hey guys, remember Bates Motel, Season 5, Episode 3, Bad Blood, and I was definitely really looking forward to this episode. I've overall really been enjoying the season. Sure, it's been really different, but it's been very intriguing so far. They've taken some characters into some very interesting directions, and this definitely was the most interesting of the bunch. I wouldn't say it was the best of the three. I think the premiere still is the strongest episode, just for how different and how it was willing to evolve the show. This episode was very similar to that because this episode, while Norman definitely was a big focus, he wasn't the main focus of this episode. This episode focused a lot more on three characters, Caleb, Chick, and Romero. It focused on their overall motivations, their, the way they view Norman, why they've made certain choices that they have, and really took the show into a much darker and deeper direction than I thought we were going this season. I love where we're headed after this season. I definitely really did enjoy this episode overall. Not a perfect episode because of some choices that were happened at the end, but let's just get into this episode because I definitely do want to talk about it, and I definitely really am loving where this is going. So we start off, and I want to apologize because I know I said in episode 2, Caleb's a goner, he's dead, there's no way he's going to be back. But most of this episode revolves around Caleb being an outsider, being the one to look in, and him kind of seeing things that he doesn't want to see. Because he wakes up in the basement, he's chained to a pipe with the side of his head severely bleeding. He is definitely very badly hurt, but he's not dead. He looks up to see Norma sitting in the rocking chair. As his vision clears, he's told that he's sorry, he now knows her secret, and puts her in a tough spot. So, basically, we're thinking at this point that one could view that possibly he is dead because he knows that Norma's dead, but that's not what's going on at all, we find out, because the figure leans forward, and it's actually Norman in one of his mother's dresses in a blonde wig, which is really creepy to think about, but he demands to know why Caleb is always putting her into tough spots. Caleb apologizes, and basically, what's happening here is that because he knows that Norma is dead, he can't accept that. He just can't accept that she's possibly dead. So as crazy as and fucked up as Norman's story is, he can't help but believe it because he doesn't want to believe that the one woman that he cares the most about is dead. He just can't believe that sort of thing. So he apologizes. Norman demands to know why he's there. He says because of Dylan and Emma that they had a baby, Catherine, and Norman says he's happy to have a granddaughter and wishes he could in fact see her. So Caleb begs for him to be let go and he will never bother him again. But Norman says he knows something he isn't supposed to know, so he needs to figure out what to do with him, and Caleb asks what that means, but Norman doesn't give him an answer. And this is an incredibly very slow start, but it definitely is very intriguing as well. There's a lot of stuff we find out here. This idea that Caleb just doesn't want to believe that Norma's dead. It really does, really heighten the tension of the episode and really does show where this episode's going to go. But the other big part of this episode, as I said, is Chick. He's in the living room this episode. We now know he's living with Norman and Mother, and he asks how Caleb's doing. Norman says that Chick, who's acting as the Mother persona, says that Chick has been very kind and a very good friend to Norman, but wants to know why. And Chick says he enjoys helping people, and when asked, Chick says that trust is the foundation and the bedrock of every relationship, and Norma can in fact trust him. So at this point, we're kind of confused. Like, why is Chick believing Norman's lies? Why is he just kind of going along with it? And it makes a lot more sense a little bit later on. But at this point, I'm like, okay, why are you really believing what's going on, Chick? You're smarter than this. I mean, come on, man. You're definitely smarter than this. You know what's going on here. And it didn't really see, it seemed just a little bit out of character for Chick to believe what was going on. But Norman's relieved that someone else knows. Chick offers to stay there for a while to protect Norman from Caleb, and Norma agrees to let him stay and shares that he's afraid of Caleb, and basically, obviously, she's terrified of Caleb because of what he did to her, and we then see Sheriff Romero. He's being transferred after he was beaten in prison, which I like that Romero is basically on his way to get revenge at this point. Like, at this point, it seems like, okay, he's getting out of there. He's going to go confront Norman, but that's not exactly where his plot goes. Now, his plot is my main problem with the episode, is that we don't really go a lot of places with this, which I'll get into, but Mother wakes up Norman, who says he blacked out last night. Mother apologized for crashing his date. She suggested he stay in bed, and she will bring him food for a little bit. She tells him not to go into the basement, and What I love about this persona of Mother is really how subdued she is. It makes her a lot creepier. It makes her just a lot more malevolent in that sense, and it just gives her this edge and just this whole just this real creepiness to her and this eeriness that we just didn't see in the original Norma, because we know this is in fact Norman's version of her, and Norman's version of her is a lot creepier. So when she starts to say really fucked up things like stay out of the basement, I mean, we're creeped out because she is so stilted, and Vera Farmiga's doing a great job with that. So I really love what they're doing with her, I have to say, as a whole. But as soon as she leaves, Chick arrives with food for him. Norman admits he doesn't know what happened last night, and Chick asks if he blacks out like that often, and he offers to stay there to check on him every once in a while. So you know there's more going on with Chick, because obviously he knows Norman's blacking out and that this isn't actually Norma. However, anytime Norman says to him this episode, what's going on with Mother, Chick acts as if she's a separate entity, which we know that she's not, which Norman protests, but Chick says he knows about Mother, and she says everything's fine, assuring him that he is not there to judge him for anything. He says they're in the sideshow together, and then they die. So we'll get into that in a little bit, but Chick's part of the story is very intriguing. I really do love her to take Chick as a character. I never really thought I'd say that Chick is one of the best parts this final season, but he really is doing an incredible job. I've always really liked Ryan Hurst as a character. They're really giving him some of his best work yet, and I think his character in general is really elevating this episode overall. So the deputies and transfer Romero stop for coffee and a bathroom break. Romero gets him to remove the handcuffs once it's just him and the deputy in the bathroom. He takes his gun, asks for the key, saying he doesn't want to hurt him. He takes his jacket, cuffs him to the pipes in the restroom. The deputy begins to yell, but his partner's still in line for a coffee. He carjacks someone named Jason, and this is the thing. Because Romero was formerly a sheriff, he knows a lot of the ways around this. He knows what he can do to break free, and he promises his man Jason that everything will be fine. So obviously what Romero's thinking of doing. At this point, he's willing to do what he can to cross some lines, and he's willing to do a lot of illegal shit just so he can get to Norman. And you get it. Like, you understand why he wants to do that. He's so intent on getting to avenge his wife's death, because his wife was the one thing that made him feel like he had a purpose and made him feel like he had someone who really loved him, made him feel like he had a future. But without Norma, now he doesn't really have a future. So you can understand why he is so hell-bent on catching Norman and basically, vindicating him for good. You can understand why he wants to do that, because of what Norman's done to him. So Caleb then lays in the basement. He has flashbacks to when Norma, Louise, and him were children, telling each other that as long as they're together, nothing bad will happen to them. So Chick then comes down to see Caleb, telling him he's only an observer now and Norman is the one in control. So Caleb says that Norman's insane, but Chick doesn't care. So Caleb knows what's really going on. Like, he definitely knows that Norman's crazy and that Norma's not actually there. But again, he just doesn't want to believe that Norma's actually dead. So he said that he will be back in a couple hours to let Caleb go to the bathroom and goes back upstairs. Remember, Norman has no idea this is going on because it's been the Mother personality the entire time. Norman has no idea. So Romero then stops in the middle of nowhere. He asks for Jason's keys and cell phone. Romero assures him he's going to kill him. He just needs some distance between each other. He tells Jason to walk down the road until a car or a policeman find him. So again, he has this whole plan. We don't know what's going to happen there, but Chick goes into the basement. He shares that he unexpectedly got caught up in his family's drama. He placed a tray of food in front of Caleb, asks for him to share stories about Norma because he lost her too, and he asks about their childhood. It's a really well done scene because we know that Chick and Caleb were both very fond of Norma. Chick in the sense that he was willing to help Norma, take care of Norman. He really wanted to be Norman's caretaker, and I think that's really why he's agreed to do this. At this point, I'm like, all right, he's agreed to do this because of Norma, because he feels that it's, he's doing it for, like, a fulfillment reason. Like, he feels that he made this promise to Norma that he would take care of Norman, should something bad happen to her. He's fulfilling it in that way. I mean, I thought that's really what was going on here, but we realize later there's a little bit more of a motivation, but this scene is still very powerful, because Caleb said that Norma was everything to him. He shares that their mom was crazy and would lock them in the room for a day or two, no food, no bathroom, and the only thing that got him through all that was being with Norma. He refused to talk about the incest between them, because he knows it's wrong. Like, he knew, obviously, the feelings he has for Norma's wrong, but obviously he can't just make them go away. What he feels for her, he feels for her, and it really does get us to look deeper into Caleb as a whole. It's not justifying all the crazy shit he did with Norma, but it's getting us to understand why he would do such a thing at her, and I really am loving where they went with Caleb as a whole in this episode. It really was a pretty great wrap-up for his character. So the vehicle that Romero stole and gets a flat tire only discovered that there's no spare tire in the trunk either. He puts it in neutral, pushed it down to a Raven, and quickly hides behind a tree as the truck drives by. So, really seems like Romero had everything planned out, like he was very close to what he was going to do, but this really does stall him out. So Norman then comes downstairs when he breaks a picture. He offers to replace it, and Mother says because of his kimono, and Nick tells her not to, and Nick, who's Nick? I don't know why I said Nick. Norman tells her not to be rude. Of course, Chick can't hear her, but offers for all three of them to have dinner. So Chick's recording their conversation. He offers to fix the window and fix things around the house. And again, he's acting very normally to what's going on. It's just weird. You don't know why he's acting so normal. But Norma says that she has no money, so what would he get in exchange? He says a roof over his head and friends. He's been very lonely for a long time. He says that he can be useful and discreet. And when Chick doesn't respond, Norman asks if he didn't hear. So Chick then says that he can't hear because of the beatings. So Norman then repeats what she said. So again, definitely something's going on with Chick. Obviously, you just know what it is at this point. But Madeleine then arrives at the Bates home to see Norman. And if there's one thing that's clear in this episode is that Madeleine really does mean to be friends with Norman. Like, she definitely does want to have a genuine friendship. This isn't a Bradley situation where she's just using Norman for sex or something like that. She genuinely wants to have this friendship with him. And I really am liking it. It's wholesome. It's actually quite sweet, but it's really tragic too, because Norman can't have a genuine relationship with a girl, obviously, because of all the crazy shit he's done. If she gets too close to this, could end up really badly for Madeleine. But Chick announced her arrival. Norman introduces them. He steals one of the cookies she baked before Norman takes her down to the motel office where they talk about their awful date. And she breaks down that she's very lonely, and if she was honest, she just wanted to have dinner. So Norman tells her it's okay, that's really what she wanted to do. She just wanted to have dinner as, like, escapism, and it didn't go well, as we know. The dinner went horribly. So he tells her it's okay, and she admits that Sam has left for Seattle again, and she doesn't even care when he's gone anymore, because she feels like she's living at home with a stranger. He's not really interested in her. He doesn't really respect her. We know that he's clearly cheating on her, I'm assuming, with Marion Crane. At least, again, I don't know if that's actually true, but I think we've been willing to believe that it definitely has to do with Marion Crane, and she doesn't really know what's going on with him. So Norman suggests that she asks him, but she feels that they've just grown apart, and she admits that she only feels safe really talking to Norman, because Norman is someone who genuinely does care about her and does want to listen to her, and she asks if they can be friends and hang out sometime. Even though she's married, she doesn't care. She wants that escapism. She wants a way for them to have a friendship, and again, it was kind of sweet. You can understand why she wants this, and he offers them to take a walk in the woods. He looks at her saying that she reminds him of someone he loved very much, his mother, and he very much lets her know that that is a good thing. Which, yeah, Madeleine looks very much like a younger Norma, so it makes sense, but I think he genuinely does want this friendship with her. I like where we're headed with Madeleine and Norman, but I'm very worried for her as well. I really do feel things are really about to go downhill for Madeleine very soon, especially once Marion Crane comes into the picture, and I very much fear that Madeleine she's not going to be a victim of what happened. I don't think she's going to die, but her life is definitely about to change very drastically in terms of the relation between her and Sam, definitely. It's about to, her agreeing to be friends with Norman is really going to be the catalyst to make things even worse between her and Sam, and I think definitely Norman's going to be a big root cause of that. So meanwhile in the basement, Caleb dreams that he broke free of the pipe. He opens the door in the basement, and he grabs and hugs Norma. Again, he wants to believe she's actually alive, and that she's actually there. And she tells him that it's over now, and he didn't lose her. That he can always find her, and to just look. And she goes silent. When he backs away, he sees Norma's dead corpse just sitting right there, which we know is the reality. She's actually there. So he wakes up from the nightmare, and Norman returns home. Chick shares that his Uncle Caleb's in the basement, a little freaked out. Some really good dark humor in this episode as well. I think Chick, honestly, they gave him some very good dark humor. He says that Caleb believes that Norman's dead. Norman killed him, and Caleb is there to kill him. So, Chick knows the reality of the situation. The reality is that Norman is hiding Norma's dead body, and that he's just kind of playing along at this point. We don't know why, but Chick tells him that Norman had a conversation with Caleb, and Norman says he will deal with the problem and go to find Mother upstairs to make sure she hasn't left and done something crazy. So he goes to the basement saying that he is Mother and can't release him. Caleb confronts her that Norman doesn't even know about him being there. Caleb tells her that Norman needs help, and he would help her with Norman, and she says it will never work because they're both in love with her. It's just not going to work, obviously. These are two forces who have this relationship. There's no way that's going to work. But she says she doesn't want to hurt him, even though he hurt her in the worst possible way he could. He apologized again, says to not talk about it because it can't be fixed. She tells him that they should just be together. Norman says that Norman will have to kill him because she can't do it, and he tells her that he loves her. So it's a nice moment. Like, you definitely do get the sense that Caleb loves her, but at the same time, she's still dead, as we know. So Romero then arrives at the house. He's about to steal a car. This young boy pulls a gun on him. He doesn't believe his story at all. He asks he asks to go leave to get his mom. He accidentally shoots Romero in the stomach, and this was just kind of dumb. This very much seemed like it just happened to stall out this plot and to further Romero from Norman. So at this point, I'm not a huge fan of where Romero's plot's going. I like that he obviously is in pursuit of Norman, but if this entire season is just going to be him getting to Norman, then I don't know if I'm going to be as into this, because this just, it felt really, it just felt kind of dumb, like, oh, they just did this so they can stall out the plots, and it didn't really, make the momentum go forward or anything like that. So Chick continues to record what's happening in the Bates family. He arrives at a shop, and we finally realize the real reason why he's doing this. We know he was writing a book, clearly, last week. We definitely know that something's going on with that. But he goes to buy a typewriter, and turns out he's writing a novel about the Bates family, and by doing this, this is his reason why he's going along with the story, because he clearly does want to write a book about the Bateses and his experience with them, which that does make a lot of sense, because obviously he's not going to tell Norman that, so he's going to do what he can to deny everything and deny any involvement in what was going on. So Chick really, he does have a reason for doing this. I think it's one of the stronger motivations for Chick we've had in a while, and really does make sense why we go in this direction with Chick that we have, throughout these 2 episodes. So Norman's in bed while Norman rubs his back. He asks what happened. She explains that Chick found him passed out in the basement and brought him up to bed. He confronts her on lying about Caleb being in the basement. Norman then tells Norman that she needs him to kill Caleb because she can't do it. And she tells him to be strong and not pass out and do it. So he says that he can, suggests that maybe they don't have to live like this, saying he felt happy and even took a walk in the woods. She grabs the gun, throws it in his face, that she has done this more than once for him. She says it's too dangerous for him to stay alive and he knows too much. She says that he has got to do this for her. She says fast and true through the brain. He takes the gun. He goes to the basement, cocks the gun, and Caleb then tells him to go ahead. Norman then cuffs him, tells him to leave and never come back because he just wants to be left alone, and he flees the house, and Norman then screams for him to go because he doesn't want to live like this anymore. Fires at him repeatedly, chasing Caleb out of the house. He runs like hell, obviously. He's ready to get the hell out of there. But Mother then runs out saying that he will ruin them, so she grabs the gun, she chases Caleb, continually shooting, making sure that she gets the last shot, and then Chick's in his car, returns to the Bates house, looks down his passenger seat, just as Caleb runs out of his car, runs him over, and finally kills Caleb as the episode comes to an end. That is the way this episode ends. Really, really great stuff overall, but let's just get into this episode and where we're going to go from here. So overall, I thought this was another really great episode. A lot of really good stuff going on here. But like I said, the most interesting aspect of this episode is that it really wasn't Norman's episode. Sure, Norman was present in it, but this episode was in fact looking at, looking from the outside in, how Caleb viewed the situation and how Chick viewed it. Now, Caleb viewed it, like I said, a much different way than that of Chick. Chick is doing it because he wants to write this book and because he clearly is trying to get all the information that he can, and by giving into Norman, this will give him a deeper look into Norman's worldview. Now, is this really going to be a good situation for Chick? I don't think so. I think Chick's eventually going to get himself killed by doing this, but you can understand why Chick is really doing what he's doing. He is, in fact, doing it for his benefit. He's not an idiot, obviously. He knows very well what's going on here, but he's doing what he can to try to play along, basically, so he can get as deep into this, as deep a look into this as he can, because, again, he's kind of on the outside looking in. He's writing this book, and I don't know if this book is like, something where he's going to tell a true story or what it's really, he said true crime, so I don't know if that means like it's going to be based on the Bates story or if it's going to be a story about the Bates family. We don't really know right now, but I like where it's going. It's the perfect storyline for Chick. I love that Chick is getting a lot more to do this season. They're treating Chick like he's a main character, and that does kind of concern me because they did the same with Caleb, so I'm hoping Chick doesn't die. I really don't want him to die, but we'll have to see what happens there. Caleb dying was extremely predictable, I definitely will say it. Like, I knew Caleb definitely was going to get his due in the episode. It would have been more surprising if he didn't die, but yeah, I definitely knew that he was probably going to die. but the show did do a good job of doing it in an unexpected way, with Chick being the one to kill Caleb and not Norman and Mother. I like that it wasn't, either of them that did it. It had to, either side of Norman's persona. It was in fact Chick that did it, and Chick did it unintentionally. Like, he didn't mean to kill Caleb, obviously. Like, Caleb would have gotten away if it hadn't been for Chick. So Chick is now going to have this on his hands. He's definitely going to have to do what he can to cover this up. I don't know what's going to happen with Chick now. I mean, Chick really has gotten himself farther into this than he can, and like I said, already this is proving to be a very bad situation for Chick, so I don't know what's going to happen there. That's going to be very interesting. But I did like getting to see, why Chick is really doing what he's doing. It makes a lot more sense now, and, Chick, like I said, he's a smart guy. He knows what he's doing, and even though, he has a good reason for doing this, I don't think this is really going to end up well for him. So we'll have to see what ends up happening with that, because I think that's going to be interesting. As far as what happened with Madeleine, I like that we see that Madeleine genuinely does want to, be friends with Norman, even though she knows that she's married and that it probably isn't the best thing for her to do, because it's really going to put her relationship with Sam at risk. Things are already not good between these two. I mean, he really does not seem to love her that much. She really is not into this relationship anymore. She wants to try to break free from it as much as she can, and Norman seems like her escape from that. The problem is, once Norman's going to eventually get involved in that family and start to commit a lot of the wrongdoings, what effect is this really going to have on on her as a character? What's this really going to do to her? We don't really know at this point. So we'll have to see what happens there. I think that definitely is going to be interesting with what ends up going down in regards to Madeleine and Norman. I like this friendship. I think it's very healthy. It's not something where it's a relationship. I like that it's strictly a friendship, but it's going to get a lot more twisted and a lot more complicated, as many relationships in Bates Motel do. The only healthy relationship really was Norma and Alex, or something like Dylan and Emma. Those are the only two really healthy relationships, which, let's get into Romero. Romero's my main downside with this episode. I like Romero as a character. I love where they're going. I love that he is doing whatever he can to try to get to Norman. He was so close, too. Like, if the car would not have stalled out, he probably would have gotten to Norman in this episode. And I get that the show doesn't want that to happen right now. I'm all for that. I don't want it to happen until halfway through the season. I don't want that conversation to go down, until towards the end of the show. I think that definitely is the right time to do it. However, them having him get shot by this little boy unintentionally is really dumb. It just seems like that's them trying to stall out the plots, and they don't actually want to go anywhere with it. There isn't a lot of progression in that sense, so I don't know what's going to happen there. I hope things do go well for Romero. I don't know if Romero is actually going to get to kill Norman, but I don't think we're going to get to Romero's big episode till the episode that Nestor Carbonell ends up directing. I think that's going to be the big episode for Romero, so we'll have to see. No Dylan and Emma either. It was definitely weird not to see them, but I get why they really could not fit them into this episode. I completely understand that, but this is definitely going to give Dylan a reason to come to the Bates mansion, realizing what happened to Caleb and everything like that. That's going to be his reason why he gets there, so we'll have to see what ends up happening there. But overall, guys, I really did love this episode. This was a very different kind of episode, but they're really taking as many liberties as they can to be different and to keep the show interesting, and I'm very happy that they're doing that. And because that, I'm definitely going to do Bates Motel Season 5, Episode 3, Bad Blood, a 4 out of 5 or a B+. So, if guys, made this episode of Bates Motel, let me know guys this episode overall, love your thoughts in it, and we'll see you guys in my next video, which will be for Legends Tomorrow from 2 weeks ago. I know I never reviewed the episode, but there's a new one tonight, so I might as well review the episode from 2 weeks ago, and I will see you guys for that. Okay, bye.